Hi, welcome back to Serving Up Success with a Splash. I'm Bruce Kramer, aka the Corporate Cockroach. And I am joined by my more than capable co-hosts.
Gosh, that makes me laugh every time. I don't know why. Angie Snowball, the Renaissance woman.
And I am very kindly by my co-hosts called the Strategy Doctor. I am Dr. Nawtej Dosanjh. Hi guys, how are you?
Good.
Good week.
Well, you know, tonight's episode's a big one. We're going to talk about how real leadership shows up in life, career, and business. And one of the things right up front, leadership is not a title. It's a daily choice. And before we go into it a little bit further, though, I almost forgot, the sidecar is our cocktail of choice tonight. I'm enjoying a good cognac, so hopefully you are as well out there. Now, this topic tonight, leadership, oh my God, there is so much published, just so much lying in textbooks. But what I want to do tonight, it gets really personal for me. So when I think of leadership, it's about bringing clarity when things feel a little cloudy. It's about bringing courage when challenges arise. And it's about bringing accountability when it counts most. And leadership is not standing above others. It's about standing beside them. Many leaders get that wrong. So while this is very personal to me, we have a lot of differing probably opinions on this call. So with that, we're going to dive right in. And as usual, we're flying without a script, so bear with us. But Angie, I'm going to come to you first because, I just mentioned clarity, courage, and accountability. That's kind of a theme with Bruce.
Yeah.
It's not a one-trick pony.
That's your theme.
I'm just saying, if you use those three things, whether you're talking the textbook leadership styles, like whether you're autocratic, democratic, servant leadership.
See, for me, this is so different. I already think like everything, because to me, the question is, how do you become a leader? Like, that's how we pick topics, guys. We go through like Google Trends, or people ask us because we want to be relevant. And one of the top trends was how to become a leader. And for me, that all started in a different way. And I don't know. I feel like a leader is it's being someone people want to follow. To me, it's that easy. That's what being a leader is. And that can come in a lot of different ways. What I often see, though, is that the best leaders are not the people that try to be the leader. Have you ever been that guy the guy wants to be the manager and he wants to be the team leader and he wants to be, and you're like, you're terrible at this, dude. And the person who usually ends up doing it is the person who's sitting back, listening, and kind of watching what happens. Because to me, that's where, not too different from what Bruce said, like it starts with clarity, but I think it also starts with listening and understanding, because you can't lead if you don't know where you're going, right? So I think that's where a lot of it starts. What do you think, Nawtej? Do you agree with me or Bruce? Come on, vote.
So I think all of those things are relevant, but I would love Bruce to have more words than just clarity and a couple of other things. Bruce, can we train you with some more vocabulary?
Exactly.
so
I'm that stubborn, so no.
I do have ESL courses, Bruce.
Guys, we really haven't scripted this because that was not a line that was prepared. It just came out of my mouth. I think it's all of those things. I think Bruce, I think you hit the nail on the head, really, to start. There is so much writing about this subject. All of these things are right, but two things have always struck me. So I don't disagree with you, but two things have always struck me. The first is great leadership starts with being a great follower. Be somebody who is good for the leader. Don't undermine the leader. Don't deliberately undermine the leader.
Right.
Work hard for the leader. Get in line with the leader. Do the right things. And I think the second thing I want to say is, so that's one of my favorite things about leadership is be a great follower. Don't demand to be a leader at the age of 25. Be a great follower and show great leadership by following the leader.
Right. That's
And
how
the
people
second,
want to follow you, is they've seen you be a good
I
follower.
think maybe that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
And the second thing for me is being in service to the issue. It comes under the title servant leadership, but what it really means, it doesn't mean that you're a servant literally, and you're not the butler, right? It's sort of what it really
Are
means
you
is
sure, Nawtej? You
that
kind
you're
of
in
sound like a butler.
service. Yeah,
His little
I'm going to
accent.
try not to. Yeah, but it's in service of the issue, and so those are two of my favorite things about leadership. So I don't disagree with you guys. I think you've said great stuff, but these are two things that always chime with me.
I got to add something here. Early in my career, I worked for a very charismatic COO, and Nawtej, you just hit me like a bolt of lightning, I should say. I walked into his office, and he had this beautiful portrait where there were a flock of birds, and then it looked like this shepherd figure. So a flock of birds behind him and a flock of birds in front of him. And I remember as just getting to know one another, it was a beautiful, large portrait. And I looked at it, and didn't he say to me, "What does that portrait mean to you, Bruce?" There's a very important lesson in that portrait. And now I'm thinking, this is not good. He's stumping the chump once again. But he said what that portrait represents, you need to know when to lead and you need to know when to follow. Thus the flock of birds, the shepherd, behind the shepherd, and a flock of birds in front.
Yeah.
I thought, oh my God. All right. So enough of that.
No, that's good. That's good stuff. I think that is a big part of it, knowing when to lead and when to follow. And another thing, I think, if we're really talking about how to become a leader, almost any situation, like Nawtej hit the nail on the head, you have to start by following, because you have to show people your value. You have to show people you understand, and you have to understand, you have to learn. So anybody that walks in and says, "Vote for me." I was just talking to Nawtej before the episode starts about our mayor in our city and how much I like him. I didn't even know which party he was for when I met him. But the reason I liked him, and the reason people follow him, he was born and raised here. He's been through the education system. He's taught at all the schools. He was on every board, the school board, the education. Like, he's worked his way up, so he understands everybody connects with him, and everybody trusts him because he's been there, and he did that. And he didn't wake up one day when he was 10 years old and say, "I'm going to be the mayor." I mean, he worked his way, and I think that's a really good point. If you want to be a leader, you have to sit back, you have to listen, you have to follow, so you can prove your value, and people want to follow you.
Yeah. What about just sort of adding on to that? Obviously, some degree of competence is key, right? You can't just be a leader with all these other things. You're a great follower. You have great clarity, but if you don't have competence, do you think leaders need to be able to do the job of the people that are below them, or not?
This is funny, because if anybody's listening to this from Ford, they will know I was project manager. So they'd all come to me with these excuses. I mean, "Look, guys, I don't care if you're making candy bars. That's not my job. My job is to make sure you're doing these on time." I would always say that to them. And then they'd yell at me and say, "It's an electronic control model." I'm like, "I don't care. That's not my job." But I did have to understand. So you don't have to be able to, in my opinion, you don't have to be able to do everything, but you do have to be able to understand what they're going through. So I think another point of being a good leader is asking lots of questions. And we come back to that a lot too in our communication. Yeah. It's all about asking questions, because you need to understand what their challenge is, what they're doing. But not everybody can do every job. That's why we have teams,
Yeah, to piggyback on that, because I agree 100% with Angie. If you maintain as a leader, if you maintain a strong level of being curious and not being rigid and having that growth mindset that I'm in it with the rest of the team to learn, I don't think it's important that you have mastered all of the various disciplines that are on that team. You just have to be willing to learn, remain curious, and you hit it on the head, ask questions, keep that growth mindset, which we've talked about quite a bit as well, where it's all about improving, that no one has all of the answers, but together we will get the answer. And so that's all I would add to that.
And I
I
do
think that's right, because
oh, go ahead, Nawtej.
I've just got, so I think this is a lesson that I took some time to learn. I sort of felt for years that I needed to know all the jobs. I needed to know them inside out. And for years I worked so hard, like hours in a day, like 12 hours in a day, just because I felt I needed to know every bit of all the other jobs. But you two are right. I didn't need to know that. It was, I was putting on weight needlessly, working 12 hours a day.
Well, that's why we do this. So you guys don't have to make the same mistakes we did. It's like sharing our experience. But, to your point, Nawtej, too, I think that's another question that comes hand in hand with this. You hear all the time, great leaders are born, not made. I mean, and I think that there's something a little bit to that, because it's easier for some people to be a leader because some of the skills needed come naturally. But I believe anybody can be a leader. And that's why leadership courses, leadership development, including our own shameless plug. We also have leadership coaching workshops. But that's why these things are such a big deal. That's why they're all over the place. That's why there are coaches and stuff, because I think you can make yourself into a leader if you really want to, if you're dedicated to something. You just might need different skill sets that you don't have, and you have to attain them. What do you guys think about that? Are you yay, nay on great leaders are born?
Do you know, I'm going to let Bruce go in this because I'm always inspired by Bruce's earlier the stories from his early career, where he was curious and he learned and he took feedback. It's inspirational. I don't think I could say better than Bruce on this. So, Bruce, seriously.
Oh God! I gotta tell you, the doctor is so clever. I mean, this is what happens when
that's
you're
how he weasels out
next to the smart kid. It gets handed.
Yeah, guys, can you carry on talking? I've got to do it.
Angie, I agree 100% with your thoughts on this, because I look at what I deem to be my leadership style back, 40 years ago. It is much different. I was not all that effective, but you learn. And to me, leadership, yes, there may be some characteristics you're born with. You might be a little charismatic. You might possess some of.
Bruce is just a little charismatic.
Leadership is learned. Because as society changes, just look at the world today, working remotely, like we talked last week and stuff. It demands different skill sets. So as a leader, you have to continually learn. Thus, leadership can be developed. It's that simple. And one of the things I'm gonna throw it back to Nawtej after this, but I want to expand a little bit on that thing around courage, because to me, courage is vulnerability, and to me, that is what separates the greats. And I'm gonna stop there. And Nawtej, you have anything to add?
I have never thought about it that way, Bruce. But I'm reflecting as we speak, and since you kicked this episode off, and I'm reflecting, you are right. You are so right. Even good leaders, even great leaders, many of them don't have courage. Mm-hmm. They don't have courage, and they make the easy decisions or the political decisions where they don't upset too many people, right? And you're right. You're right that there are so few leaders who have courage. Absolutely right. But look, you both said it. I'm going to reinforce it completely. Leaders are not born. Leaders are made.
I agree.
If I'd been born on a shipwreck, a desert island, and a boat, that I was traveling on, I got shipwrecked. I've been 20 years on a desert island. I was not going to be a leader. There was no nature, nurture environment that was going to make me a leader, right? But I have a question for you two guys, and you may think, when I ask this, you may think, Nawtej, can you shut up and answer the question yourself? And if you want me to, I will.
Okay.
Okay. But it's a tough question. Do you guys think that you're great leaders? And I will add a caveat while you're reflecting on that. I think you both are great leaders. I asked that question because of what Bruce said about courage. You both have a lot of courage. You both show your vulnerability in our meetings. You both have that. But do you think you're great leaders?
I'll share the vulnerability. Another episode we just had, we talked about the word for the year, and mine was believe, because I don't think I do have courage. And I know that that comes from myself. I know that that's working on myself, and that the first step of having courage is to believe in yourself and believe in your decision. And I am getting much better at it. In fact, you guys didn't see this behind the scenes, but I just fought these two guys on something. I was like, nope, I know what I'm talking about. This is the answer. And we went back and I was right and we got it fixed. But I don't even know that even last year I would have done that. I would have been like, I don't know, maybe I wasn't. Maybe double check that. Maybe whatever. So I'm also like, I'm middle-aged. I'm the definition of it, right? So I think I'm just now getting to that point where, I don't know, like I'm an adult, like I'm trusting myself as an adult. I'm like, oh, I'm a grown up. Like I'm that person that knows things, and I do know things, and I should know things, and I should share things. And so I think that I can be a great leader. I think I have been in certain situations. I also think there's times that I wasn't a good leader. And honestly, I've stepped away from this. For instance, I was on the board of the Campbell County Boys and Girls Club for a while. And I love the Boys and Girls Club of America. I think it's great. But the reason I stepped away was, one, I didn't have the right time and passion to commit to it at that time. But two, there were just so many differing opinions there. And this was about 5-6 years ago. I didn't have the courage in myself to step up and be that leader. Like, looking back, I should have been like, look, I'm taking over. Nobody can get organized. Nobody can do this. I know how to do this. And I did. And I should have taken over. But instead, I stepped away. And that was a missed opportunity for me to be more involved with the Boys and Girls Club. Now, in Dayton, you can ask my husband, there's nothing I'm not leading and involved in. If there is, let me know, because I'm down for it. Like, I'm just comfortable now. And I'm believing in myself and what I do. So
I want to come back to this, Angie, but I want Bruce to answer as well, because I think Bruce is a great leader.
I do too.
He has immense courage.
I am very much a student of leadership. It is something, it's interesting whenever I'm in an engagement, even with you two, when I'm working with you two, after the call, I think of two things. How did I show up as a team member? So as Nawtej pointed out earlier, know when to follow, know when to lead. Because I have issues with a bit of being a bull in a china shop. So I always start with that.
That's such a good description of yourself. He's
He's
a cuddly bull, though. Like, he's a sweet one. We're happy to have him.
I think you now know I'm not a great leader. I understand the importance of it, and I'm a student. Because the second thing I asked myself as a leader, what else I could do. What I can say is throughout my career, I had huge turning points in terms of how I viewed leadership. And so I talked about vulnerability, and I could think of an example where I was privileged to have the honor to lead the team that introduced paperless pick into one of the country's largest distribution companies. That was a big deal because basically it was a game changer in supply chain. Just ask Amazon going paperless. But what I did as a leader of that team, we were given the opportunity to start with one of our distribution centers. Now, these places pound out hundreds of thousands of dollars a day, thousands of shipments, trucks coming in, inbound and outbound. I brought the place to its knees. We literally had to shut the facility down. I could still hear the CEO, Kramer, what? You took $500,000 a day off our plate, not to mention the impact to our customers and to the suppliers. And I really thought, well, that was a career defining moment. Where do I pick up my last paycheck? I mean, literally, I took this place down.
Wow.
Well, the team, was horrified that this was happening. And there were a couple of reasons that Bruce overlooked that contributed to this. So I had to say in front of everybody, I upped. I mean,
Yeah.
I messed
Yeah.
up. I messed
And that's
up.
what makes you a great leader.
Totally.
Because you're
Totally.
honest, you're upfront,
Totally. Yeah.
and you had the
You
courage to accept your mistakes. Sometimes it's not the courage to do
Totally.
something. Sometimes it's the courage not to do something. And sometimes it's the courage to say, I did something wrong. I mean, there's a lot of parts of
Absolutely.
courage.
Absolutely. I think, Bruce, maybe you're confusing not being everybody's cup of tea between, but like, and which all of us have, but between a great leader. You are a great leader. Look, the vulnerability that you show on camera, and Angie, that is great leadership. If that's not what great
This is
leadership
just fun.
I want to know what it is. Then. I want to know what it is. If that's not what it is, then I need a better definition.
Well, I
But
am
it's-
going to make Nawtej talk here too, because he gets away with
Yes.
throwing questions,
I
and
was just going.
I got
Can
one
I
for
take a
him.
call first?
No.
I've just got to go
Sit down and be quiet. It's your turn.
Yeah.
So the question is, because and I'm circling back around to where we started, how to become a great leader, because that's what the episode is. So we're talking about, yes, we need some courage, and how do you get courage? Start with yourself. We're saying you have to follow, you have to learn where you are, you have to listen. We're saying all that stuff. But what if somebody really wants to have a structured approach? What if somebody's missing those skills that they weren't born with, but they want to build them? You're the academia master there. Where would you direct them? I mean, obviously coaches and stuff, but where would you tell them to start? Do you have resources you could point out for them?
Oh my God, there are so many resources. Let me just hit some points which are not, exhaustive. But first of all, you've said it, but get a coach. Get more than one coach.
Yeah.
Bruce. By the way, Bruce and Angie are my coaches, and I'm pretty certain I'm their coach too. So we are each other's coaches. Get more than one coach. Always make sure they're trusted. Always make sure that you're getting valuable feedback, and always make sure that you've got a coach who doesn't mind if they discard your feedback. Because just because you have a coach, it doesn't mean you take all of their feedback. You can discard their feedback. But coming to academia, in my view, education is never wasted. Do some education, get some education, get some training. It's never wasted. You learn an awful lot by just doing any education. But specifically, you can look at getting trained or educated in the set of behavioral competencies like communication, like dealing with others, like empathy. There's 20 or 30 probably of these behavioral competencies, and get trained in those. There are so many courses. Speak to Bruce, get connected with Bruce. He is so good at this. He's got 3 or 4 young people who are, I'm going to embarrass him. They are doing so well by having him as their coach. Talk to Bruce. If you're not in Bruce's, part of the world, talk to Angie. She's in a different part of the world. Get these people on your side. They know what they're doing. So, look, just to recap, coach, education, or any education, but specifically, there are a set of behavioral competencies, some of which I've described, that go to making this growth mindset. Bruce and Angie just demonstrate these by showing their vulnerability and where they've made mistakes. These are class act behavioral competencies that these guys are demonstrating.
Look what he says about us while he's showing us how cool he is.
Yeah. By the way, guys, when this show is over, I'm going to have a different set of words for them. I'm going to just really lay into them. I'm joking.
Hey, Angie,
No, I'm not.
evidently he checked his bank account earlier this morning.
Good. Bruce is bribing him for us. Well, it works, Bruce. Keep it up. No, I
Cheers!
think that's Jared. That's a great summary of what to do. Look for, and another thing, I actually just posted this morning on LinkedIn, which made me think about it. When you are looking for coaching, it's such a vague, wide field right now. There's a lot of people out there that, say, I'm a life coach, I'm doing everything. No certifications, no experience. I mean, they used to organize closets. And it's not going to work for you. Maybe it'll work for somebody, but be really careful when you find a coach too. Take your time, do the research, find the right people. And a really good coach, if you're not a good fit, they'll send you to somebody who is. I know I do. I turn away more customers than I take right now. One, because I'm too busy. Thank you guys. Thank you everyone. But also, I know people sometimes I'm not their cup of tea. And they're not going to be happy with me. But that's why I'm surrounded by a lot of great coaches. I just said, who you would work really would. And I sent him over to Jason, or I send somebody to different people. So a good coach will help you find the right person if they're not. But do some research and find somebody good. They'll have good resources for you, documented resources, reputable sources. Those are important things too. But also listen to podcasts.
Yeah. The only other thing
specifically.
The only other thing I would add to that, Angie, and I know Nawtej, it's part of, I think all three of us use this process, is have that first conversation where you're really not even diving in to any aspects of the business or personal performance. You're just gauging whether or not you like one another.
Yeah, I think we all have discovery call links on our websites. Check us out. We think we do.
That sounds ridiculous, but it is 80% of the battle. If you genuinely, sincerely like the person, the way in which you converse, you're more than, like I say, halfway home. And
like if it's specifically leadership that you're looking for, look for a leader that you want to follow. See what they're doing. Generally, they may be coaching, right? So see someone like, that's what I'm missing. I want to be like that person, and reach out to them. I think people are very willing to talk to you, more willing than you think, if you just ask.
Just changing the subject slightly, because it's just suddenly came to me. But what are the attributes, if you had to pick, say, 3 attributes you look for in a leader, what would they be?
Authenticity. I need that person to be real. I need them to have passion about what they're leading. So those are 2. Bruce, you got one to throw in there?
I have to feel a level of trust. That to me is very important. And again, that's built through what everybody's been saying, through listening more than talking, builds trust. Really making sure that that's the type of person, if I'm looking at them as a leader, that I'll be seen and I'll be heard. Yes. This is going to sound kind of quirky, but the other thing is I like leaders that drive accountability.
That's not quirky. That's good.
If I'm on a team and somebody's not carrying their weight and nobody's saying a thing, drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Or if I'm on a team and the leader doesn't take accountability, that drives me nuts. So accountability is something I look at a person and say, what actual evidence is there?
Yeah. Because that'll drive me nuts too as a leader. Like, okay, we all know this is not a good situation. You should be doing something. I think a lot of times leaders make the mistake that they think that means somebody has to be fired right away. I'm like, you don't have to fire somebody. Help them identify their weaknesses and be better, but do something. Don't let them continue to do this. And that goes again back to you're not born. I have an example, and she'd probably come on here and tell us about it. So Whitney knows who she is. I'm not throwing her under the bus, but her boss called me and said, she's fantastic, but she's got a resting witch face and nobody can work with her. And basically I showed up and she's like, yeah, I don't want to work with them. They're idiots. And like, she was just frustrated. I'm like, okay, well, I think I've identified the problem. But anyway, I worked with Whitney for a few weeks on different communication skills, body language, whatever. And everyone loves and adores this woman now. She is the most beloved manager. She's so effective. Their productivity shot through the roof. No matter who you are, you can learn. And if you're that leader, you can help that person learn if they don't have the things that you think the rest of the team needs. Don't have to give up on them. Help them find what they need. Okay, so we should probably wrap up here because we don't get bored, but other people might get bored of listening to us. So I'm going to go to Nawtej first to tell us, what's your one big takeaway? What do you want to make sure people know that we shared this time?
So I think all the things that you guys said about what they look for in a leader, but I would also add one thing, which hasn't come up in the show, but I want to add this thing is look for a leader who's going to give you some autonomy over your own life, who's not micromanaging you and just looking over your shoulder. He could be trustworthy. She or he could be trustworthy. They could be passionate. They could be very direct. They could make people accountable. But autonomy is important to the human mind. So also look for all those things and look for somebody who's going to give you autonomy.
I think you also came up with our next episode. Stop micromanaging.
That's a good episode, but I think I've got a different one for next week, which I'll come back to.
Okay, Bruce, yours. What are you going to take away?
Well, I think we've talked all around it, and typical of Dr. D. As we prep, again, we don't have a script, but we do share information with one another prior. And one of the leadership styles that stands out is this thing called situational leadership. I think now more than ever, every conversation we just had on this show, you have to be very adaptable based on the skill sets of the team, based on the challenge. Are you in crisis mode? Is it smooth sailing? Do you have a very, very well oiled machine, or are there some kinks? So situational leadership, that ability to adapt a little bit of your style in which to move everybody forward, including yourself.
Yeah. Okay. And I think my final point would be kind of back to the beginning, full circle. A leader is someone people want to follow. So be someone people want to follow. If you want to become a leader, how to become a leader, be someone people want to follow and believe in that person that you are. And don't be afraid to do it, right? I mean, when it's your turn, you got to believe in yourself and don't be afraid to do it. People might just be waiting for you to lead. So, and that there's help. Like there's people, if you don't feel like you can, get a one-on-one coach. So, I think that's it for me. You guys got any last things? Otherwise, let Bruce wrap it up.
Well, just a couple of things. First of all, cheers.
Cheers.
But don't forget to hit the subscribe, hit the like button.
God, we're terrible at that.
And don't forget to hit that little bell for notifications. But until next week, know when to follow as well as when to lead. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.